Hey, Michael. Hey, John.
I actually brought mine in the truck. It's like, you know what, I just don't want to run in there with water. I'm going to be wet anyway. Watch me spill this along the way.
Look, Paul even wore the shirt. Okay. There it is. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We'll do the pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Want to do roll call?
Councilmember Rubio,
Present.
Councilmember Roberts,
Here.
Vice Mayor Womack,
Here.
Mayor Wynkoop.
Here. Carol, you want to do a prayer?
I'll tell you what, if everybody would just join me in the prayer that I believe we probably all know. Our Father who art in heaven,
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us for our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
The kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. All righty, thank you very much. And let's move on to ordinance number 26-04. If you would please, Anita.
An ordinance of the Town of Montverde, Lake County, Florida, amending Section 5-41 in Article 2, Chapter 5 of the Montverde Code of Ordinances relating to building permits and inspections to comply with House Bill 803, providing for the calculation of building permit fees, eliminated administrative fees, providing for repeal of all conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. Paul, you want to explain this?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Council. This is the second reading of the ordinance. The ordinance is to comply with House Bill 803 that was passed this year. So it does eliminate our administrative fees associated with building permits and changes it from a valuation to a square footage type method for the calculations.
All righty, I'm opening it up to the public. Anybody want to ask any questions? I'll bring it back from the public. Bring it to council. Anybody have any questions, answers?
I just had a question, Paul. For that building report that I spoke about last meeting, I guess what was the final verdict? Did anyone look into that, or?
Yes, I have staff working with Alpha Inspections to get the numbers, and I believe they already have a draft together for 24, and we'll have our 25 audit just got released this week, so we'll go ahead and get 25s going too as well. So that'll be posted here upcoming in the next day or two, the 24 one.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Paul.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Rubio. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Okay, nobody else. I need a motion, approve or deny.
I'll make a motion that we accept ordinance 2026-04 as presented.
I have a first, need a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against say nay. Ayes have it. Move on to the next one, if you would please, Anita, 2026-20.
Mayor, did we open it up to public comment? I can't recall.
Yep,
We did? Okay, thank you.
but thanks for checking.
And if I may, should we do 2026-21 first before 2026-20, since one is adopting the fee schedule and the other one's incorporating it into the contract for alpha inspections?
It can be either way.
Okay.
I thought I would talk about them in tandem, just because you're right. I mean, one is dependent on the other. So if you don't agree to the fees that are listed in the contract, then we would need to change it in the next resolution too.
Okay.
Okay. Resolution 2026-20, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Montverde, Florida, approving the First Amendment to agreement between Alpha Inspections, Inc. and the Town of Montverde, Florida for building permitting services, authorizing the mayor to execute the First Amendment and providing for an effective date.
All righty, you want to explain that, Paul, a little bit? The
And
20
sure, Mayor, if I go ahead, I'll maybe let Anita explain that a little bit. She worked
Okay.
with Alpha to get those in, so.
So as we talked about, this is the fee schedule attached to this contract amendment is the same fee schedule attached to your next resolution, 2026-21. So this would change Alpha's existing contract because they are paid a percentage based on the building permit fees collected, and it used to be based on evaluation. So we need to change out Exhibit A. And we looked at several cities. We looked at proposed fees for Mascot, adopted fees for the town of Howey, Osceola County, not under the current, they're currently adopted schedule for residential is not based on valuation, but that was adopted previous to this new House bill. And then the city of Claremont, again, their existing fees not adopted pursuant to House Bill 803. So we looked at a number of them. Some of the fees being proposed to you are a little bit higher and a little bit lower depending on what fee it is with regard to Osceola and Claremont. These fees are in line with what's being proposed for the city of Mascot, and they're a little bit higher than what the town of Howey adopted.
All righty, I'll open it up to the public.
Joe Morganelli. So I guess I had a question, and this may have been from the last one, and I apologize, my notes are a little crazy tonight. And it's about the exemption part. It was showing like there was $100 for the fence, for example, but an exemption from having to get permits if it was $7,500 or less. Is that the last one? I'm sorry if it is.
No, I'm happy to answer it. So for single-family dwellings, certain improvements, if it meets the criteria, then that would be exempt. So we have to show the fee schedule.
Gotcha.
Because it's incumbent on the owner or their contractor to actually request the exemption. And if it was, the exemption only applies for certain homes. So if it's in the flood area, it would not apply, and so we have to charge the fencing fee.
Okay, and I guess, and again, if it was for the last one, I'm sorry about that. The question I had, which was in reference to the documentation, because it says, with the copy of the contract or other documentation demonstrating the nature and the value of the work, that's sort of open for interpretation, because we're not really saying exactly what that documentation can be, unless
My recollection is I took that language directly from the statute, and so we're leaving it as the statute, and I think it can be interpreted. Some people don't do an actual written contract. They may do a proposal, or they may have receipts showing the fencing amount and what the labor is going to be. So
yeah, and the fence was just an example, that was it. But,
yeah.
So basically Tallahassee making it clear as mud, like usual. Okay. Okay, so for this contract then, do you have like a ballpark estimate of what this is going to cost for, or I guess what their fees are going to be for Osgood and for and I'm saying Osgood, I know it's different now, but, or the Bella Colina homes? Do we have anything like that, like an estimate at all?
I have not done that. I don't know if town staff has.
Can you repeat that? I didn't understand her.
Basically, I was just trying to get an estimate of what their fees would be for Bella Colina and for Osgood Properties. That's all.
Oh, the vendor's fee?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a dramatic change, shift one way or the other. It depends on the size of homes. The larger homes may see a slight increase, but not a dramatic increase.
Okay.
But at least when I talked to Matt early on, it's just more of even the valuation method that's in the book where they pull some of these numbers out, is based off of square footage. So it's just reversing the valuation methodology on it. So, but we haven't run anything specific because we haven't had any permits drawn for any houses. We don't know what size they are and how many, stories they are, et cetera.
Okay. And then I guess the last question I have is, this is just, it's not a renewal of the contract, right? This is like just redoing the contract.
Right, we did not do an extension to the term. It's only changing the fee schedule. I don't know if we changed, and we changed the
Public records.
public records clerk's address.
Okay. Yeah, I just wasn't sure if it was, all right, so I guess hypothetically then, if we were to cancel this and next year, right, or 2 years from now, like, is there an actual effect? I know it says effective date July 1st, 2026. Is there a term length for it? I know the original was 5 years.
These fees go into effect July 1st, and they'll remain in effect until council makes a change to the fees schedule again.
Maybe I'm asking for the next one then. I'm more or less asking about the Alpha contract.
This is the Alpha.
Okay,
yeah.
so then that's the one I'm asking, right?
It didn't change the term, so if the term was 5 years beginning 2023 and it's up in 2028, we did not extend that. And
Okay.
they will be paid based on this fee schedule until a new fee schedule may be adopted and we amend this contract again.
Okay. The last question I have then is just in reference to contract, and you probably won't know that answer then, but what would be the cancellation fee or policy? I've seen some of the contracts for other cities with Alpha, and that's why I was asking that. There was some of the cancellation process was.
I don't have it with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I have. Thanks, guys.
All right, well, great. Bring it back to council, and us, anybody else? One at a time. Okay. Bring it back to council if anybody has any questions. Bye.
One at a time as well, right? All right, so I do have some questions. This is mainly, I guess, to start off with Paul. Can you walk me through the process? Let's say someone, I don't know, wants to build a pool or an ADU. They submit for the permit. Can you walk me through a process from the aspect of how involved is Alpha and how involved are we as a town?
Sure. The application will come in through the town, through permitting, which Patty does. So her job is to collect all the information, verify it has all the requirement documents are put in, and she works with the owners to make sure they have everything they need. Different things require different. Some require civil engineering, some require surveying. So she'll work with them depending on what the type of building, just say it's a house. So once she has all that, she'll distribute it out to the reviewers. So Alpha, who is now Wildan, they have a designated person that just does all reviews for residential. They also have a commercial reviewer, and they review those plans simultaneously. It's sent out to planning and zoning, and Parks Consulting reviews the zoning aspect of it. So the setbacks, the different, square footages, things along that line. And then they'll put all those comments back into the system. So once those comments come back to the system, then on our side, we send them back to the owner to address all the comments. Once Patty has all those collected, then we send them out. We kind of try not to piecemeal it. We make sure we get everything back. Then usually most rounds, depending, if it's a home occupant builder, sometimes that can go up to 5-6 times. We've seen it. Generally, the professional builders, it's usually one round of comments, and they usually have their permit from there. And that's basically the process. Then after that, Wildan's involved in inspections. I think there's usually about a dozen inspections, for a house. Some things require one inspection. On our end, then we do an inspection at the end to do the zoning clearance and make sure everything was followed on the setbacks and the grading, things along that line.
Okay, so from 1 to 100, I guess like how involved would you say, like if you were to assign a number percentage-wise, and how involved they are in the process, like just what number would you throw at them? Like 50%, 60%?
Could you clarify who's involved in? You mean us, Wildan?
Inspections, yeah.
Again, it'll be type of the permit on a house. They're the primary person that does all the inspections. So they're involved by law under Florida Building Code. They have to approve the plans and they have to be inspected, or they have to have a private provider do that for them. That's also available to do it. A homeowner can use a private provider. So they're very involved in all aspects of it. Once the permit's issued, the town kind of stays out of it a little bit until it gets toward the end. But they're back and forth. They work with all the reviews, inspections from footing, foundations, the studs going up, the roofing, insulation, getting all the product review numbers are now required in the Florida Building Code. So they make sure all those are included in the applications and are approved. They have to approve those. So yeah, there's a lot of work involved in it.
Okay, so they do, I would say pretty much, I don't know, like 80% of the lifting on permits.
That's probably a good number on a house, not on all permits.
Okay.
On some stuff, they're, very, could be very little involved in. On a fence, they're not involved at all. So it just depends on what type of permit it is.
And so from Alpha's end, usually maybe 2-3 people would touch a permit, just generally speaking, like on building a house, for example?
Yeah, on a typical residential, you'll have a person that reviews it, and then the inspector does the inspections, and it's generally the same inspector, which is Matt, unless he's on vacation, then they have someone that fills in for him. On commercial, there's a lot more people that touch it. So you have fire inspections, fire reviewers, and it's a whole different breed when you do commercial. There'll be 4 or 5 different people touching it on a commercial.
And we hired Alpha, in 2023?
No.
I believe, probably before, they were here before I got there,
Yeah, it
so.
was here I hired them, yeah.
Yeah, I think 19 was the first
Yeah,
one.
19, and then took it away from,
Okay, so Lake County did it then, 2019?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
and then I handed it off to Paul. And he loves it.
And then back to, I believe, a question that Mr. Morganelli asked was, I guess, for example, their contract states that they get 65% of the permits. We get the remaining, 35?
Correct.
Now, obviously, that was based on the old evaluation. With the new evaluation, I guess, what does that translate to? Is it, and I know it's hard, are they essentially going to make more money, less money, break even?
Yeah, the split's not going to change. So the split stays the same because that's what funds our building department. And again, it's going to come down to the size of the house. If they get in there, all the 2 developments we have left, they decide, oh, we want to build all 6,000 square foot homes or something, then yeah, it's probably going to be more cost. If it's, and I'm just just from general conversations with Matt, it's kind of hard on the building code stuff, but your average size home, say 2,500, 3,000, will probably be close to the same. I don't have that exact number.
And if we were to have our own, I guess, I don't know, inspectors, like if we hire them under the town, like what could something like that look like? Like 1, 2, 3 people?
Sure. The town could have its own inspectors and departments. Generally, even Claremont has struggled to keep up and keep building inspectors. They're far and few, and they are expensive. I don't know what the Claremont one is making. I'm sure it's more than the Montverde town manager, because there's so few of them. Then the problem is you lose one, all of a sudden, now what do you do with the inspections? So you usually don't see them till you get to larger sized towns, and especially with Montverde, we're kind of hit and miss where permits come because there's been times in the last 5 years I've been there where we haven't had seen a permit guy for 3 months. Then all of a sudden here he is and he's crazy. So you have a lot of ups and downs. So contracting, it does make a lot of sense for the town because it takes that risk of having to keep an employee on, or if something happens to that employee, just from my experience.
And then salary, what, like 150, 200? I don't know what the Claremont town manager makes.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I think a building inspector is in the mid 140s to 50s or somewhere. That would be my guess is what they're making, because I know they're far and few between. A lot of them just run their own small businesses because they do make good money like that.
Okay. But essentially, in essence, with the two developments, we're going to essentially have higher costs, higher permit activity. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I mean, unless the economy goes south on building, yeah.
Okay. You mentioned that Wildan. Can you explain that when you were explaining how the process is reviewed?
Yeah, so Alpha Inspections merged together with Wildan, or Wildan merged them into there. So basically, they purchased their company, or they brought their services together.
Okay. And what does Wildan do for us? Like, what do we hire them for?
The only other things we've used them for is rate studies and impact fee studies.
Okay.
And they're a pretty large firm.
Mm-hmm.
What's been nice about having Wildan now, when we were with Alpha, we always struggled with fire inspections and some specialty inspections because those are really hard to find, and they have those in-house as well.
And by the way, I guess for everyone to understand my questioning, I guess I'm trying to get a good sense as to how this is, I guess, built out in regards to cost. Obviously, if the homestead exemption thing goes through, then obviously it affects our budget. As of now, we don't really know much as to what the new permitting is going to look like in regards to cost and what we're going to pay out. So I'm just trying to, I guess, get ahead of the curve on that. I did go and look at the financials the last 12 months that we paid out to Alpha Inspections. We paid them $375,775.99. That was from May 2026 to, June 2025 to May 2026. And I mentioned this, and that's why I asked how much would it be to hire someone, because it might just be easier after the contract is up, their 5-year contract is up, for us to maybe possibly explore hiring in-house. That's obviously a lot of money that they're taking. Granted that we're also taking a portion of that, but it's obviously a way lesser portion, 35%. So that's the only reason I'm bringing that up. I know we're not talking about their contract or renewing or anything like that, but it's just, I wanted to look at their contract since we're doing an amendment to that contract itself.
Yeah, personally, that would worry me trying to keep staff on for all the different aspects of inspections and keeping up with it when we're busy. And that's the beauty with them. They have multiple inspectors they can pull from when someone gets sick for different reviews. Commercial requires a different type of license for reviews. They have people that do the actual inspection reviews of the plans themselves. So I think it would be hard to create a department. And I'm not sure, I know Nita's worked for a couple other towns. I'm not sure if they've done anything in-house or what her experience is. We can definitely ask her if she's willing to share anything there.
Isn't it legal for a subdivision builder to hire their own people?
Yes, it is.
So they could just cross this off the list?
They could use the private provider, and then we have to discount the permit fees by the 20%. I think that's what we did for 20% for residential discount. And then by statute, we have to do a minimum of 25%. So we use that minimum as the reduction on commercial.
So we could hire somebody, Brian, and they just say, we're going to do it ourselves.
Or they could say that now and say we're going to do it ourselves with the way that we're structuring this, and then we lose money. So Obviously, we don't know what's gonna happen. But I think it would have been, prudent to get some forecasting done on this to see what that could look like if, let's say, I don't know, half of the permits get outsourced on their own. We don't touch them, so what does that loss is gonna look for us? And then, the other way around where, let's say, fine, we do the permitting, we do all that stuff, but what does it look like with the new schedules of fees? And I think that should be done prior to the new budget, just so we have a really, really good understanding of that. Because we don't know. They could say that after this and see it doesn't pan out for them, and they could say, well, we're gonna outsource it, discount it for us, and now we're losing even more money.
Well, the reason I brought it in-house was because the Lake County couldn't keep up with us, and our residents would have to go to Lake County and stand in line and then come back here, and the vendors would take forever to do that, so people were mad about it. And Lake County couldn't keep up with the demand that they had because the home builders were stealing all the inspectors. This is what I got. This was 5 years ago, 7 years ago. And so for a guy and for Aaron to get his AC replaced, it would take 5 days just to get the permit from Lake County, and he's sweating the whole time. So that was a really big motivator for me. And the second part of it was that one of our employees did Groveland for many years, permitting. So we had a halfway decent person trained already. Are those problems still the same? Probably not, but I'm sure the developers are stealing. Now that the developer can have their own person, they are definitely stealing the people from the county. I don't know if you've heard that, Paul, but that's what I've been hearing. Because, Brian and I are in the business selling houses, and that's what I'm hearing all day long.
Yeah, I would agree. Inspectors, it's a specialty trade like anything else, and I'm sure you can get a base inspector at a good value cost that may be on the low end range, and then when we have to do commercial inspections, what do you do with those? But it really works out good for us because if housing slows, we're not out anything. If it goes good, we get more revenue in. So there's not a lot of risk, I guess, for the town versus you put a lot of employees on and all of a sudden we have this, say, 6 months drop. Let's say everything gets delayed. We know they're going to build and nothing happens for 6 months. Well, we may have 2 or 3 employees. We have to ride to do this for several months on the inspection side of things, plus picking up the liability and the retirement and everything else that goes with it.
And then 2019, was that sent out to bid for Alpha Inspections to do their work? Did we send it out to bid?
That was prior to me, but we didn't have a policy back then that required bidding. There was no policy.
My question was that if Alpha, when they were hired in 2019, if we had sent that out to bid then, or was it by default we just went with them?
No, I found out who was doing other cities in the area and talked to, just about 3 different companies, and everybody I talked to said that they performed the best. Okay. And pretty much that's what I chose at that point.
Okay. Town attorney, Paul mentioned, obviously, you would have knowledge on other municipalities. Out of the ones that you work for currently or in the past, do they all have different permitting companies, or they all use the same one?
At one time, Alpha Inspections was owned by a couple, and they had variations of Alpha, so like Alpha International, Alpha Inspections, but they did primarily Mascot, who I don't do work for, but I know they were in Mascot, they were in Groveland, and they were in Fruitland Park. And then they came to Montverde. Since then, as Paul explained, Wildan has acquired some of those companies. I don't think they've acquired the one in Fruitland Park. I think that's independently owned. But the other, I know in Groveland, it's now Wildan is over that company as they are here.
Okay. Now,
and I think they're still in Mascot from what I understand and speaking to your building official.
Okay. And then for the schedule fees, it was mentioned earlier that, we looked at, town attorney, you said we looked at it. I guess, who exactly looked at, how did we come up, I guess, with the schedule fees is really my question. And who was involved in the process? What did that look like?
So we were provided Mascots and Howie's, but then I looked at some others, like I said, looked at Osceola. I was searching for other cities or counties that use the square footage method, because in all the other jurisdictions I worked in, they always based it on valuation. So I was looking for any jurisdiction that I could find just to see what they currently, and had they adopted new schedules under the new House bill. I couldn't find any under the new House bill, but they did have some. Osceola, I think for residential, it was square footage, but commercial, they did the valuation, and Claremont was kind of reversed, I believe, if I remember correctly. So just compared those, and I think Matt from your building official had provided us, once Howie's got adopted, he let us know what those fees that actually got adopted were.
Okay. And that's what you mean by we were provided? Is Matt is the one that provided that, or?
Yeah, I believe Matt provided them to Patty.
Okay.
The proposed fees for Howie and the proposed fees for Mascot, it's my understanding Mascot has not yet adopted. Maybe they have since we prepared this, but, and then I think it was last Monday night, Howie adopted a proposed fee schedule, which is different from the Mascot proposed schedule. And we looked at both of those.
Does Howie and Mascot, they both use Alpha Inspections, or they use someone else?
It's Wildan. I don't know if they have sub-companies like we have Alpha, but it's Wildan.
Okay. Was that ever disclosed in the past, I guess, that Wildan purchased Alpha? Like, how did we know about it, or did we ever know? Was there any disclosure on that, I guess?
Yeah, they notified us when they did it and came by, and yeah, they sent a letter and came by and introduced themselves and the change. Yeah. And part of the, I mentioned this at the last one, Mr. Rubio, part of the adoption of how they come up with the fees is they use the building valuation data as a part of the International Code Council. And I was trying to see, I don't have a page number on this, but because I asked them the exact same thing, hey, you know, how are you calculating this? And they have a whole formula, how they kind of calculate the square footage and a percentage with formulas, and that's kind of the basis, and they have to adjust it for the area that they're in and things, and that's how they come up with the chart they have. So from a budgetary standpoint, I don't think we're going to see any significant difference in our budget numbers from the fee schedule that's in front of you, from talking with them and working with them.
Okay. And we said we're doing 2026-20 and 21 together, right? Or
Yeah, they would need to be consistent with however the council votes. So if you're not in favor of the fee schedule attached to the contract, then we would need to obviously look at the fee schedule adoption resolution as well.
okay. Did we do public comment yet on these, or no?
We did on the contract amendment, though I think Mr. Morganelli really talked about the fee schedule in generals, but I would say we should open it up
Okay,
for public
I'll wait to
comment.
go until after
Yeah.
public comment then.
All set?
Yeah, for now, until
Okay.
after public comment.
All righty. Anybody else want to speak? All righty. Need a motion to approve or deny?
Mr. Mayor, I think we have to open it up for public comment.
Did I? Oh,
He
Is
did
that-
at the
I thought I did
beginning
that
on
before we
20,
brought
just
it
not
back.
21.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But we're not doing them together, though.
no.
No, they need to be consistent when you get to, we were talking about the
Yeah.
fees together is what I meant,
Okay.
but however you want to.
Again,
move forward.
I would suggest that we do 2026-21 first before we vote on 2026-20.
So do I need to do that, Anita?
They need to be consistent with each other, whether you take them in reverse order, it doesn't matter to me, or legally, it's just, we put that one first, because it's a contract amendment and it needs to be consistent with whatever fees you adopt, so
So if we,
either order is fine.
okay, thank you. All right. Okay, well, we're doing 2026-20. I need a motion to approve or deny, and then we'll move on to 2026-21.
Mr. Mayor, again, I'm not ready to vote on 2026-20 until we look at 2026-21.
Okay. I guess you don't have to vote.
Well, that is my duty to vote, Mr. Mayor.
If anybody makes a motion, we're going to vote.
It just makes sense that we look at the permitting schedule fee first before we
We
incorporate
just
that
had our
into the
attorney tell
alpha.
us we don't have to do that, Brian.
She said we could do it either way, but it just makes sense.
And I can make that decision myself.
I understand that. I'm just
Well, I'm
voicing my
making a
opinion.
decision not to do it. I'm making a
Okay.
decision just to go in order. Okay, so we're back to making a motion for 2026-20. Anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2026-20.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it. Now we'll move on to 2026-21.
A resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Montverde, Florida, adopting a fee schedule for building permits, repealing any fees in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date.
All righty. Do you want to talk about this, Paul or Anita?
Yeah, Anita, why don't you go ahead and start it off and I'll chime in.
So it's necessary by July 1st to have new fees in place that don't base it on the valuation. This fee schedule is consistent with the fee schedule attached to the contract amendment that you just approved.
Okay, I'll open it up to the public.
Joe Morganelli. All right, I guess this one here, I had on your staff report, just you guys at the bottom here, you have this, additionally, the resolution repels any conflicting fee provisions currently in effect. And I think you guys mean repeals on that for the staff report.
I'm sure it's just a typo.
Okay, just, okay. And then on the actual resolution, the first sentence, it says, whereas the town is authorized pursuant to 633 dot 216. I think you guys also have a typo there, which is, this is an important one, obviously. I think you mean 533.80 because 633.216 is fire safety inspections by a certified fire safety inspector. And 533.80 is local government enforcement of the building code.
I'm going to double check. I think, and actually, I mean, I think it's a typo for sure. I think it's 166.216. It talks about cities having jurisdiction to adopt fee schedules in 2 locations. So it is also in the 553, but I'll double check that. Thank
Okay,
you.
no worries. That's it.
All righty. Anybody else in the public? All right, I'll bring it back to council. I need any questions, answers, conversations, or I need a motion.
So I'll take it one step further, I guess, than Mr. Morganelli. I did find the same discrepancy. 633.216 does talk about fire prevention and fire safety inspections. 166.222, 553.80, and 553.791 are the ones that talk about inspection fees, processes for the permits, and then also the private provider language. So those are the 3 statutes that talk about that. So just, I guess I caught the same thing. I know for the ordinance that we did 2026-04, this one has it correct. It says chapter 166 and chapter 553. So the first one that we did does have it correct. It's just this one has that one discrepancy on it. And on 2026-21, the 553.791 is mentioned at the bottom, but it has to do in regards to the clerical and supervisory assistance, not necessarily the permitting fees. So would we like to make any changes, or are we gonna?
I'll change the correct citation for the first whereas clause. The one in the third whereas clause is correct because the new law says that we have to make our building permit fee has to include the labor cost of personnel providing such services and the clerical and supervisory assistance. So that's the correct reference for it. But I'm going to change the first whereas to be the correct statute.
So do we vote on it and then the correction is made, or should we just bump this to the end and?
If you could if somebody makes a motion to approve, then it would be with the correction to the correct statutory provision in the first whereas clause.
Okay, and then that correction is the 166 and 553?
It'll be 166.222 talks about, actually that's not, that was the utilization permit, hold on. It's actually 120 or 166.021, the powers of municipalities.
Can you explain to me what's going on? A little bit clearer.
So the first whereas clause in Resolution 2025-21, it would be changed, instead of 633.216, it would be changed to 166.021.
Okay.
The reference to 553.791 is correct. If you wanted to add 553.79, we can add that as well. That's talking generally about permits.
The last number was what number? 553?
553.791, which is in the resolution, that can remain. If you wanted added additional statutory reference, you could add 553.79.
Okay. Okay. Can you state how it should be presented for a vote? And then I'll diddle that.
It could be a motion to approve or deny Resolution 2026-21 with changing the first whereas provision to reference 166.021 Florida statutes and adding reference to 553.79 Florida statutes.
I make that motion there. I need a second.
Is it a motion to approve or deny?
Then approve.
Thank you.
I need a second.
I'll second.
I got a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, say nay. Ayes have it. All righty. Thank you very much, Anita. And thank you very much, Brian. Move on to nothing. Anything else anybody want to talk about?
I think we still have one, 2026-22, the Central Florida Water Testing LLC. Is that correct?
Yeah, so Mayor and Council, I'm going to pull that item from the agenda.
Yep.
I'm still waiting for them to review the final addendum Anita sent over to them, so we'll have it at the next council meeting for review.
All righty. So we're just going to skip that one tonight, push it,
I
and
would.
go ahead.
I would request then, if we're not going to address this now, but there's a lot of open-ended blank checks in that contract where essentially the water company is going to bill us separately for a lot of things. I would think it's a good idea if we also spell out what things we're going to take care of, because there's options in there where they say the town could take care of some maintenance or we'll do it, but it will be billed separately. There's a lot of items that say billed separately. I think it would be prudent for us to just spell it out. This is what the town's going to handle in regards to the maintenance. This is what we want you to do it, and just go in it with that expectations. And I say that because their yearly contract cost is $39,470. That's base. That's not including all these billed separately. And I'll give you some examples for the billed separately. Collection systems, to maintenance them, lift stations, digester pump outs, chlorine, backflow certifications, floor meter calibrations, maintenance belts, blower maintenance, deragging, lift stations maintenance, diffuser maintenance, additional testing, additional visits, repair times, plant logbook, and record storage. These are all billed separately. So I would say it's prudent for us to know what that cost looks like. If we could lock in the rate now, that would be great. There's also discrepancy for the lobbying certificate. The lobbying certificate in Appendix A has Florida Aqua Store and Utility Construction, Inc., which I have no clue who they are, but that's obviously incorrect. It should have the company that we're looking to hire here. So those are, some things that I was going to bring up, which I think should be addressed before next time we see this on here. Also, I did have another question. It's $39,000 per year plus billed separately clauses, so it could easily go up, I don't know, just 5, 10, 20,000, who knows. But my question is, did we send this out to bid, or are we just by default going with them for this specific plant?
Yeah, this is the current company that's operating our water system. So yeah, we're using them by default just because they're already here in town doing it.
Now, again, in the essence of our 1/3 of income going away possibly at the end of this year, wouldn't it be prudent, I guess, for us to get this bid out?
I mean, we could discuss it and look at it. A lot of times you do bids and your prices will come in higher, is been my experience with bidding versus just working with the people you're using and you know that work good. There's another one or two good companies in the area that do good, but they're very expensive. And there's a lot of them in the area that win bids that I wouldn't want to hire. But again, the pricing is fair, reasonable, kind of what we budgeted for when we did our study. So that's what it was based on. But if council wants to bid it out, we can bid everything out.
So I guess for clarification purposes going on, when do you come to council for, I guess, for an amount for us to say we wanted to get a bid? Like what amount, what's that threshold? Or I guess who makes the decision what gets bidded out or not?
I'll have to look at the purchasing policy, but it's also council can go up to whatever legal threshold they're allowed by the state, which is it depends on the project. I don't believe there's a threshold for this type of service. For certain construction projects, it's 300,000. For electricians, I believe it's 50,000. It just depends on what the service is.
And I bring this up because I've seen the pattern that we're going with companies by default. I think it doesn't look right for us to just by default hire the recruiting company, didn't send it out for bids, software company, didn't send it out for bids. And I think there's a few others throughout the year. So the pattern's there. I think, again, it's prudent for us to send these things out to bid, period. Either way, whether they come in higher or not, hey, at least we know we're paying, market value, and we're paying what they deserve to get paid. Also,
Yeah, just understand when you put it out to bid, you're going to be stuck with who you're bidding because the company that is probably going to bid it's going to be plant technicians as well, and they're probably going to look at the market a little closer. So you may get a higher number. Example, I come back to Porter and Lakeside. Both of those projects were $750,000. If I didn't have to go through the bid process on there, we'd have another $500,000 in our bank right now because we could do it in-house a whole lot cheaper.
yeah.
So I'm just saying it's not always the most prudent thing to get bids. Sometimes you work with people know that do a good job. You look at what the other cities are paying that do the bids. The trash service was an example. The council just increased the trash services, but it was really easy to go kind of see where bids and costs have been over the last couple of years to see if we're getting a prudent cost. And in that case, our trash service is right in line, actually a little bit lower than what some of the recent bids come in. But, I can definitely, if that's council's direction, we could definitely talk about it. Bidding is time consuming and staff intensive and attorney intensive. So it does cost us money to bid. So I've always found it just for little things like this, it saves us town money going forward, especially on service stuff, but we can definitely have a further discussion about it and put it on a discussion item. If that's what council wants to do.
And I understand that, obviously doing it this way, we could save money, but it's not necessarily about money. It's about doing the right thing. And the appearance of us not bidding these contracts out and just handing them to someone just because, or just because the municipalities next to us have them, it's not a justification in my mind. Nonetheless, something else I didn't see in the contract is anything about their license to see whatever licenses they hold that they're active and current. I also didn't see any insurance requirements in regards to that. And last but not least, the DEP, when is that going to get transferred to us? Or is it transferred already? The DEP.
I have not done the transfer. All the other stuff is generally administrative stuff that we take care of on our side. To not get you guys too buried in paperwork into the weeds, but yeah, we require all that. They're a current company that do this, and they do it for other cities and towns.
Well, either way, I mean, I understand we check for it, but it's easier when it's in the contract. There's no dispute there what we check for. But I didn't see it in this one. But that's it. That's all the concerns I had, and I'm just bringing it out again.
It's fine. Yep, definitely. Yeah, just recognize a lot of times when you see these smaller bids, you don't get bids back on. You'll have one bidder, sometimes two bidders. When we did the library, we put everything out the bid. There was probably more than 50% of the trades. We got 0 bids back. We were calling like, hey, can you please put something in? Because when you get into these smaller jobs, sometimes it's not worth the headache of what you have to do in a bid. But like I said, we probably need to have a little longer discussion on that topic You know, even when we did the $750,000 road on Lakeside, what do we have on that? Three bids, I think. And Porter was maybe 5 or 6 bids was all that came in on it. And a lot of them, they just threw a number out there. You know, we had up to, I don't know, $1.2 million, $1.3 million on Porter. Just people threw numbers out there. Just in case no one else bid. But point taken.
So I'm understanding for years now that if the state wants you to do a bid, they've got numbers in there, like the 300,000 for the roads, if I remember right. Anything under that, you don't have to bid out. Am I right?
Yeah, there's certain things or have different thresholds that state statute says you have to bid, or if you have certain agreements with the state, on grant agreements, you have to bid no matter what. Then yeah, some things you can negotiate and work with, and you know, use your vendors you've used in past because you have an experience with them. They're working with your system. We, you know, as far as town money, I think we've been very responsible in by working what we've done to keep costs down, get really good return for the town. And I think that's very reflective when you look at our budgets and our audits, which, you know, our town net position has doubled in 5 years. And that's because we try to always get the best value for the town.
And we do have a purchasing policy that we wrote that somebody could read, right? If they needed to.
Yeah, we have it, and we can definitely get bids too. I mean, under policy, you know, if I was bringing it from scratch, most definitely be a bid. But yeah, this isn't already an existing vendor that we're using that Chuck has worked with and has experience with them, and I kind of know who would win the bid if we got it out, and it's probably not a company we would want to use, just because of other problems they have based on what I hear from other cities.
All right. Thank you
And
very much.
speaking,
Oh,
since
go
you
ahead.
brought that last point, Paul, I guess also another pattern I haven't seen in any of these contracts is how we're gonna, I guess, rate them in performance. There's obviously the contract for you to do the minimum job, but there's nothing in there for us to give a performance evaluation, you know, at the time of renewal. There's no metrics, I guess, is my point. Is that standard, I guess, in this, I guess, municipality industry?
I would say it depends on the size of the town. In order to rate and do those, I do see those in municipalities and large towns, but a lot of them have a full-time or a staff of policies analysis people, and that's all they do is they rate and look at different contracts and score them and decide what needs to go out to bid and things along that line. We simply don't have the staff. Again, I'll come back to council wants something like that. It's definitely something we could add into the budget. You know, with minimal staff, you know, everything is we look to try to find ways to save money for the town, because ultimately we can do those things, but the staff would end up costing more than I think the value saved. A lot of it, we're looking for a company that gets a good job done and gets it done. Like, for instance, I'll go for our water systems and extracts. When we have a broken line or something happens, we use a company called URE. They probably was never bid. They were here before I got here. They do a lot of the cities in the town. You call them up Sunday afternoon at 5 in the evening, you got a broken water line, they show up with their shovels, usually within 2 hours for the water line. So they're just so reliable, and their prices, I can't put my staff out there for what they come for. So some of it's just working and experience you have with certain vendors that work. And some of it, you just got to bid. Yep.
In a situation like with Alpha or with Wildan, if those vendors were to go out on bid, would we be required to take one of those bids? I know that the state has its requirements when it comes to bid, but if we were to bid that out and we didn't care for what we got back in the bid process, could we continue on with the same type of agreement that we have with them? I guess is once it goes to bid, are you required to follow through to the end, whether you like those bids or not?
I mean, I'll let Anita answer that. I think you have some flexibility where you write the bid in the way that you let you score, usually do a score sheet based on, some will be off experience, off of staff, things along that line, off of cost. And you try to, you try to stay objective so you don't get sued, obviously, for being unfair practices. Anita, do you want to jump into that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends if you're bidding it where qualifications and experience come into play. If you're doing a hard bid, like these are the services we need, or these are the products we need, or this is the work, and we have it detailed and they're actually bidding a hard number, you're supposed to take the lowest, most responsive bid. You always have the option as the council to reject all bids and start over, but then what we generally see is you don't get many more bids because you've already rejected a slate.
But that's just with hard projects, but.
Right. When you're looking for services and qualifications, then you do have a lot of flexibility, as Paul said. When you're scoring, if you have experience with the company and they've done a good job, you're going to score them higher based on their references, whether personal references or references you hear from other jurisdictions that you call.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the struggle you always have, this is kind of the worst thing when your city is everything's public record. So they know what your budget is for the project. They know what other people have paid. And that we kind of experienced this when we went out with the mowing. Everybody called and say, send me what the current person's paying. And they pulled the budget and what else. And so they have a number they're all sitting there trying to compete with. So you're getting down to, you really can't get a fair bid because it's really, everybody's just looking what you're currently doing and seeing how they can enhance that bid a little bit, maybe not. So it's a lot of effort. So when you get a company that that's not performing well, then yeah, definitely you need to. But you look at who else is doing building inspectors in Central Florida, and I think there's a bunch of small, like single people out there and a couple of real small ones. And then there's one large one, I forgot the name of that company, but we wouldn't want to work with them. So there's just not a whole lot of people out there that's going to take it on and do a good job with the relationship we have and the experience we have with them. It's a good question. I mean, it's definitely, I mean, I probably done more bids than the town's probably had in its life. And from a bidding perspective, it's just, you got to kind of pick your poisons, what to do and when to do it, I guess.
Okay, Brian, any more questions?
For the town attorney, do we have any update on the recruitment? I guess, where are we with that?
An email went out, I believe, indicating I think you've received 19 or 21 applications. I think they've spoken with you about whether they may want to extend the contract or the application deadline, which is currently scheduled for July 3rd. They may still decide that it's in your best interest to extend that another week, but it's not going to throw off your schedule. And so the next item, once they close that, would be for them to send you the applications and the background checks and references and newspaper articles and all the things they gather. I think it's August 8th, if I remember correctly, will be coming to you.
So should we give guidance now, since July 3rd is the current deadline and they're looking to extend it? Or how do we do that? Email them back, or?
Did they make a request of each of you? I don't know what your conversations were. They just made it sound like they had talked with each of you that they may want to extend it. I don't know.
Yeah, they put that in the email that we got, right?
Okay, so we
But
don't have.
verbally, they didn't talk to you about
No.
it? Okay.
Just
So
email.
is there an objection if they want to extend it further? They're still
No.
going to keep on track with the other part of the schedule.
I'm okay with the
Yeah,
week.
yeah,
I
yeah,
figure we might as well just
definitely.
talk about it now.
I am too. Grant, you okay with it?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'll let them know that you're okay with a week.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Grant, anything? Okay, Carol? Okay, I make a motion that we go home.
Second.
Adjourn and go home. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, say nay.
Good night, council.
Hey, have a good evening out there. Wear a coat.
I'll do so. I will.
Yeah.